morning. My name is Bhuvan for StudyIQ. This is the Indian Express Explained. Let's get started. If you have any particular doubts related to whatever we discuss here today, you reach out to me on my Instagram handle that goes by the name of Bhuvan StudyIQ. Okay, and you can also approach me for doubts related to geography, to environment, to CSAT or international relations, as those are my areas of interest. Great. So the first topic that I have for you, well, please understand first. So 2020, okay, 2021 to 2030, this entire decade, right? This is being observed by the United Nations as the decade of ecosystem restoration. All right. First, understand this concept. This is what it's being observed as, right? So under this, you have had a recent meeting that took place in Congo, okay? And that is to do with the Three Basins Summit, okay? So what is the Three Basins Summit? The three basins that you're talking of, the river basins, number one is the Amazon River Basin, number two is the Congo River Basin, and number three is the Mekong River Basin, okay? So under this initiative, okay, you have had three basins, the representatives, the countries, all of them have come together. And what is the point of this entire meeting? What they realize is that these tropical rainforests are at immense stress, okay? Not just because of anthropological reasons, but natural reasons also, right? So again, one concept that you need to know. So is deforestation, obviously, a primary area of concern? Now, is deforestation only a man-made problem? No, right? Deforestation has existed long before man existed on the surface of the earth. You have had natural causes for deforestation such as forest fires, all of that, plus added with the same man's effort, the human intervention insofar as deforestation is concerned. All of those are adding a lot of stress to these immense ecologically rich areas. Okay, Amazon River Basin, Congo River Basin, Mekong River Basin. So, the Three Basins Summit, the three basins like I told you, this took place in Brazzaville in Congo. Take it. And at the end of the summit, a declaration was adopted. But please understand the point first. The point is to first have a coalition, then have a roadmap. Okay. What are they going to do in the future? And then eventually, they are looking at financing. Okay. This is the entire crux of the matter. So they have come together. Okay. There's a roadmap now that they're setting forward insofar as protection of these tropical rainforests, these river basins is concerned. And then they're looking at, say, the financing aspect. Who is going to fund, say, the ecological restoration and maintenance of these sensitive areas? Got it. So the main objective, global governance, conservation policies, and financing for the ecological and climate lungs of the planet. Now, you must be aware, no, guys, that say we call these tropical rainforests as carbon-rich areas, carbon sinks. Yes, they help in carbon sequestration. So let's understand first the entire, say, chronology of sequence of events, because that is very important for us to gather before we go ahead and understand the details. Meanwhile, Laughter, Coder, Bulbul, good morning, guys. Thanks for joining, all of you. So let's look at the chronology very quickly. Okay, chalo. So when you look at the chronology of, say, this entire sequence that has happened, okay, so 1992, let's start from there. Here is a quick revision for you if you want. So 1992, what happened here? You had the Rio Earth Summit, right? Let's do this quick revision. If you're watching this live, let me know very, very quickly. 1992, you had the Rio Earth Summit. Then 1997, you had the UNFCCC Summit in Kyoto, correct? So 1997, the UNFCCC in Kyoto, correct? What happens after that? Then you come, say, to COP15, correct? In, say, Copenhagen, which is roughly which year? 2009, you had the Copenhagen Summit. Each of these are of extreme relevance to you from the examination perspective. Okay, make sure that you note each of them down individually, correct? Then you're looking at the Nagoya Biodiversity Conference, which was in which year? Nagoya was in, I think, most likely 2010, I believe. 2010 mein tha. Okay, the Nagoya Conference. or the Nagoya Summit, same thing, right? Then after that, for the first time in 2011, this is of importance to you guys for the present discussion. In the 2011, you had the first ever meeting of the three basins, right? So the three basins, the first ever meeting happens in the year 2011. Thereafter, you have COP21, the most famous up until now. That took place in 2015. Okay, COP21, correct? Am I correct, guys? Let me know. COP21 in Paris. Okay, correct. Then 2016, you have the Marrakesh COP22. Right, COP22 in Marrakesh. Okay. What happens after that? Then 2018, you have the first edition of the Intergovernmental Platform on Biodiversity and Ecosystem Services, the IPBES that we know it as. Correct? 2018, you have the IPBES. Okay. Each of them you need to be aware of, by the way. If you do not know, if these are completely new terms for you, I suggest first take a note down and start reading. Okay. Thereafter that, you come to 2021 when you have COP 26 in Glasgow. Correct? COP 26 in Glasgow. Okay, right? 2021. Sorry. Take. Then 2023, once again, this year, you have the Three Basins Summit that takes place in Congo. Three Basins Summit. Right? And then finally, in 2023, later this year, you will have COP 28, which will take place under the presidency of Sultan Al Jaber. Correct? So now if this is the entire, say, chronology that we have come, you realize that, say, the entire focus right now is on coalitions, is on eventually finding the money to go and solve the problems. The problems have been identified, the sensitive zones have been identified. Now it is just to go and who's going to fund the ecosystem restoration? Who is going to give me money for adaptation? Who is going to give me money for mitigation? Right? So this is, I suggest, note down this, because from the examination perspective, you're supposed to know this chronological order, the sequence. You're supposed to have a fair idea of this if you're going to write a good answer. Okay. So now, let's look at the three basins in detail. Okay. I wanted to discuss this in depth because, well, it's a very important topic. So let's look at it. The three basins, firstly, the Amazon basin. Okay, I'm going to give you some homework also today. Why not? So the Amazon basin, you are looking at 9 countries, primary countries that it passes through. Right? Can you name me the 9 countries that it passes through very quickly, guys? Morning, your neighbor coder, how are you? So let's look at it. The 9 countries, to the best of my recollection, you are looking at Bolivia, Brazil, okay. Then you're looking at Suriname. Why not? Chandrika Prasad Santokhi. Okay. Colombia, Ecuador, Guyana. Correct? Colombia, Ecuador, Guyana. How many? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 3 more. Okay. Peru, Venezuela, and French Guyana. Correct. Peru, Venezuela, and French Guyana. Correct. So make a note of these countries first. Frequently asked question. So Amazon, 9 countries. Okay. The Congo Basin, you are looking at 17 countries. So here is your homework. Have a fair idea of at least the route, the Zaire River that we have studied in school days now. So that was known as the Zaire River, then now it is known as Congo River. So what is the route, right? Which countries is it traversing through? Which lake does it get its water from? More importantly, 2 lakes go ahead and give me my water for the Congo River. Have an idea of that, right? Thereafter, you are looking at another sensitive zone, the Mekong River zone, because again, it's heavily populated there, right? So let's look at the Amazon basin one by one. The Amazon basin, the world's first green lung, the planet's largest forest, okay? Extends over now 9 South American countries, including Brazil. And the problem here, guys, okay? So let's identify the problems very, very quickly. How is it being threatened? Number 1, it is because of oil and shale gas exploration. If you have been following this news that we do every morning, you will realize that recently they had the Amazon Summit, which was just to do with countries which form a part of the Amazon basin. And there was no consensus. Consensus was not arrived. Why? Because you had these groups of 9 nations. Each of them is pursuing their own, say, energy agenda. And obviously, if you are going to harness energy, you are going to require to have to do with, deforestation, yes, infringing on ecosystems. That's going to happen, which is why Brazil was one country that did not agree to it. So do you realize within these each sub regions, while there is a large, say, agreement in so far as a South-South cooperation, first understand all three are part of the global South that you study. So in part of South-South cooperation, yes, they have come together. There's a roadmap. They're looking for finance. But in terms of intra, say, aspect, there is a lot of divergence. There's no agreement insofar as how they should go forward. Why? Because each of these nations has their own energy agenda. Right? So let's look at the points one by one then. Oil and gas, say, is one issue. Exploration. Okay. Exploration. Then you are looking at deforestation being an issue. And this is not just said to do with man-made, but also natural. So artificial and natural both. Correct? You're looking at indigenous communities, tribes. Because let's not forget, they are the oldest forests on this planet Earth. People have been coexisting, habitating these forests for so many years, centuries now. Right? So any type of, say, development that you do should not infringe on the rights of these primary holders of this forest, the custodians of the forest. So many issues are plaguing all of them collectively. And individually also you find that there is not a lot of, say, synergy. Synergy is missing. Okay. Let's look at the Congo Basin. The world's second largest carbon sink, by the way. Africa's second largest river too. After Nile, it is the second largest river. Okay. It is the only river, in fact, the only major river you can call, not the only river, the major river that crosses my equator 2 times. Okay. It crosses the equator 2 times. And finally, it goes and drains into the Atlantic. Right? So here it is 17 countries. You go and have a look at it. Which are the 17 countries that form a part of my Congo Basin? And finally, you come to the Borneo, Mekong, and Southeast Asia Basin. Okay. Once again, population-rich area. Okay. An area that is seeing a lot of development happening over rivers. You must have heard of, say, the Three Gorges Dam. Okay. Some of the biggest dams are being built along this particular river basin. Which is why you find that sustainable agenda is in the centerpiece, the center focus of this entire discussion. Okay, and which is why you find that Amazon and Congo and Mekong, Borneo, they have come together for this entire summit. First meeting being held in 2011. Okay. Go ahead, answer these questions for me very quickly, my friends. Number 1, the Amazon basin comprises which of the following groups of nations? Brazil, Peru, Argentina, Bolivia, Chile, Argentina, Ecuador, Uruguay, Suriname, Brazil, Peru, Suriname. Let me know your answers in the comment box. And the second question that I have for you. Longest river of Africa crosses the equator twice, drains into the Indian Ocean. Which of these are incorrect regarding River Congo? Relatively easy if you have followed the lecture, right? So if you understand the point of the Three Basins Declaration, the Three Basins Summit that took place in Brazzaville, Congo, well, go ahead and share and leave me a like. I'd really appreciate that. Okay. Chalo आगे बढ़ते हैं. Meanwhile, if you are preparing for next year's civil service or the year after that, what I've been told is that even though it was closing yesterday, we have around 4 or 5 seats left in this. Go ahead quickly, right? Look at the course declaration. The course, the document, the faculty. More importantly, look at the approach that you will be, say, introduced to at StudyIQ. It is not going to be कि हमने आपको note पकड़ा दिया, तुम रट लो और exam pass कर लो. Then what is our job there, right? It is to make sure that your conceptual clarity is ensured. It is to make sure that you have the adequate awareness about question solving. The different types of traps that you could walk into if you haven't solved enough questions, right? And that is to do with not just, say, the prelims bit, but also for the mains bit. There is an approach, individual approach for different stages of the examination, And so you need to be aware of that. The knowledge base is obviously important, but the approach, the strategy has to be in place, and that is again unique to each individual. So go ahead, look at the course deliverables and sign up for this program. And when you're signing up, use the code BA Live. Why? Because, well, straight away you get allotted to my batch. And so we start with geography ASAP. Okay. My esteemed colleagues will take a look at the other subjects for you. And eventually, the hope is that on 26th of May 2024, in the evening, you are in a much relaxed position, say, than the 99% of the candidates who have gone for the examination. Right? Okay. Moving forward, here is another news that I have for you that comes from the Indian Express today. While a relatively harmless, maybe students will not understand the whole grasp, the whole spectrum of this particular topic. It's a type of news that you will just see, overlook, and just go forward. But let's understand this entire topic in detail. Okay? Road accidents up by 12% to 4.6 lakh from last year, and 19 deaths per hour are happening in India. So let's understand. No problems, Devi. Welcome, welcome. So let's understand, guys. Road safety. Okay. Let's identify the stakeholders first. Chalo. Let's show you the approach, how to approach reading a good article, because many students ask me, कि article कैसे पढ़ना चाहिए? तो देखो इधर. First, step 1, identify the stakeholders for this problem in terms of road safety. Number 1 is going to be you, the road user. Correct? Number 2 is going to be, well, let's see, the government. Why not? Okay, because they are an equal stakeholder in everything in the country. Number 3, you are looking at, let's understand, the traffic police, right? Or the RTO. Okay. Number 4, in case of accidents, well, you're looking at your first responders, that is, say, your hospital services, your trauma care. Correct? And eventually, you are walking or driving on a road, which means you are looking at, say, road engineers, road engineering. These are the various stakeholders of this entire process. So do this for any question, guys. Before you start answering a mains question, identify this. Identify your stakeholders of the question. Now that you have realized that, well, it's a multi-stakeholder problem. Okay. So what does the report say? The road accidents in India 2022 by the Ministry of Road and Transport and Highways. Okay. Morth, Shri Nitin Gadkari being the minister. So what does this particular report say? Okay. The figures are not important. Don't worry about the figures. The general trend is that, well, road accidents are on the upswing. That's all you need to remember. Okay. You don't need to remember 4 lakh log mare, zaya hue, forget that. Not important. What you're supposed to know is that the general trend is upwards, and that now it has become a public health issue. It's essentially a health issue. It is also adding to the economic woes of the country. Right. So several studies, estimates will tell you that because of road accidents in India, India loses a sizable part of its GDP. Okay. How so? Let's understand a person, a family of 4. Okay. One earner. The earner on a two-wheeler meets a road accident, has a road accident, passes away. Do you realize what happens? The earning potential of this individual plus the fate of the other 3 people all compromised. Why? Because the person met with a road accident and passed away. Correct? So you see how road accident is not just only a public health issue, it is also adding to the economic woes of the country. It is leading to, say, degradation in the quality of lives of individuals. Okay. So once you have realized this, let's go ahead and look at a few facts and figures very, very quickly. Okay. So 17 people, now these are average figures. Okay. These are the average figures. Not important for you to know the figures. More importantly, the next slide where I'll show you the age group which is most at risk. Which state has the most number of road deaths? Where are you more likely to die? On a 4-wheeler or a 2-wheeler? Which road are you more likely to die on? State highway, national highway, which kind of road? All of those have a general basic idea. Because if a question on this comes, say in the mains, those will be the general tidbits that if you put and highlight in your answer, it's going to stand out. Okay. So let's look at it. 17 people are dying every hour. This is what I'm talking about. The 4.34 lakh crore figure. The cost to India due to road crashes annually. Do you realize? It is leading to an economic problem also. It is not just a health problem. Children dying, okay? 13 lakh people killed in the last decade, 50 lakh plus, my God, seriously injured or permanently disabled in the past decade. Just in 10 years, you have had 50 lakh people who have died. Why? Because they died of road accidents. Now, if a question comes, guys, if you're given this particular statement, that driving on roads is not just a mechanical experience, but is a social experience. What does it mean? Tell me, what's your initiative here? What is your understanding? That driving is essentially a social experience. You know, why do road rage happen? Why is it that people overspeed? Why is it that there are, aggressive turns and overtakes? Because there is what? You are bringing in your real life problems onto the road. Correct? So it is a social experience. What it tells you is the number of deaths that is happening is because of lack of, at least a part of the reason is lack of cooperation on the part of road users when on the road. Correct? Right? So this is what I want you to focus on. That driving on the roads is not to be just seen as a mechanical experience that you sit in your car, go from place A to place B. Yes, that is the part of it. That is the essence of it. But during the journey, it is a social experience. It's how you interact with the other road users and not just other drivers, more importantly, pedestrians, two-wheelers, even stray animals that might so be on the road. They shouldn't be there in the first place, but if they are there, well, it becomes a social experience for you. Right? So let's go ahead. The national figures, well, ideally they were showing a declining trend for me up until say 2017. Okay. If you look at it, was showing a declining trend. Now the Morth report tells me, the 2022 report tells me that suddenly now it is going up again. Okay. So let's look at the accidents on highways. Where are you more likely to go and get an accident for yourself? National highways contributing to 30%, state highways 25%, and more importantly, the other roads. The other roads is where the majority of the accidents happen. What does that tell you? That it is to do with, firstly, lack of proper enforcement. Why? Because all of your, say, enforcement agencies are focused on this. Right? So lack of proper enforcement, number one. It also tells me that probably, most likely, the road engineering is not proper. Right? Isn't proper in my other roads. And at the same time, there is lack of medical access. Right? So you have an individual who went ahead, had a crash, but then no first responder reached him or her for a long amount of time, thereby they passed away. Right? So what type of collision are you more likely to have on the road? Once again, head-on collision. Second number. Which means what? You are looking at aggressive overtakes. Right? Or say taking risky turns. If you're driving on the hills, you should know which side you should put your vehicle in when you are taking a turn. Right? The drivers from the plains may not be aware of that. Basic road etiquette is lacking. Okay. So let's look at the road accidents trends in India. Okay. So which age group is most at risk? 25 to 35 age group contributes to 25% of the total say road accidents. Why? Because they are on the roads the most. This is the earning age group of the country. They are always on the commute, traveling point A to point B, and thus they are more at risk. You also find that 18 to 25, which means say if you're going from just adolescence, thereafter 25, the group that has the most energy, probably also lack of experience, also contributes a sizable number. In terms of state distribution, Uttar Pradesh leads with 12%, Tamil Nadu with 11%, followed by Maharashtra. Obviously, the states that have an expansive road network are the states that will have the most number of deaths. And who is most at risk? What you find is it's the two-wheelers who are most at risk on the road. Okay, not a very difficult interpretation. Why? Because again, there is no safety mechanism for them. The first fall could be the fatal fall. The first mistake could be a fatal mistake. That, say, comfort or cushion is given to someone who is on, say, an auto rickshaw or a car, van, taxi or a truck. Right? In case of two-wheelers, that doesn't exist. So the key factors, this is from where you will go ahead and get your mains fodder points. Okay. By the way, UPSC has asked questions on road safety in the past. So I suggest pay very, very close attention to this. Okay. So bad road user behavior, like I told you, it's a social problem. Driving is a social issue. Bad driving. Okay. So looking at fractured licensing system, that you don't even go for your tests. Your father, your mother does some jugaad and you have the license delivered at your house. That used to be the norm, say, a decade ago. Now, obviously, the things are a lot more digital. But still, what you find is that people take license for granted. Yes, please understand, license is a privilege that is accorded to you to drive on the road. Driving on the road is not a right that you have. The Constitution tells you you have the freedom of movement across the country. How you move can be decided by, say, appropriate privileges that can be taken away. So it's not a right that you have that, yes, मेरे को गाड़ी चलाना तो कैसे state disallow करेगा? No. It can be taken away easily, right? Driver training not mandatory, same. Zero driver training. Most individuals may not be able to tell you the difference of different road signages. What would a broken line mean? What would a continuous line mean? What would two lines in the middle of road mean? Even the most aware students may not be aware of this. Okay. Management of fatigue, that your truck drivers are driving for 16 to 18 hours a day, right? What are you going to have? Eventually, you are going to get tired. Your brain is going to go slow. It's going to get tired. Your reaction time will be slow, right? Which means more fatalities on the road, more accidents on the road. Similarly, weak enforcement of traffic law, penalty system, which has been changed. After the recent Motor Vehicles Amendment Act, you had, say, the fines that was increased exponentially for certain, misdemeanors, right? But then still a lot more needs to be done, correct? And more importantly, look at this. This is what I'm saying, which means I'm addressing the hospital stakeholder. This is where they come in. Lack of rapid trauma care, lack of bystander care. And this is what I want to address, because the Good Samaritan law under the government of India's, yes, this has been passed by the parliament, the Good Samaritan law. What does it mean? So you must have seen that particular very disturbing visuals of an individual who might have met with an accident, and say the people around, okay, rather than helping the individual, would be taking photos or selfies or videos or reels or whatever, right? So that lack of empathy is one thing, but then that stems from where? That stems from the fear that if I go ahead and get involved with that particular individual, maybe taking him or her to the hospital, then I become a part of this process later that follows with the police and the judiciary. Well, that has been addressed by the Good Samaritan law. So let's go ahead and understand the Good Samaritan law first. Okay. So Good Samaritan law offers protection. Okay. It offers protection to any bystander or any individual who helps any individual or any bystander who helps someone who has met with a road accident. Okay. This is it. This is the protection being offered by the state to you, so that you go ahead and help people address who have become an unfortunate casualty insofar as this public health issue is concerned. So what is the Good Samaritan law? That you will not be liable for civil or criminal action for any injury or death to the victim. So you are taking the particular victim from the accident site to the hospital, and the person passes away in midway, So when you reach the hospital, are you responsible for the death of the person? No. The Good Samaritan law offers you protection therein. Okay. If you inform police or in emergency services regarding an injured person, you will not be compelled to reveal your personal details. Privacy is being accorded to you, so that fear that exists in your mind, that if I get involved in this, court kachari ka chakkar lagana padega, no more. Okay. And it also offers disciplinary action against public officials who coerce someone to reveal their personal details. So the local thanedar tells you कि अपना number बताओ, नाम बताओ, मुझे जानते नहीं क्या मैं कौन हूँ. Here it is. The Good Samaritan law offers you adequate protection therein also. Now this is addressing towards the police and the officials stakeholder. Let's look at the other stakeholders, the hospital now. So you have taken the person from the site to the hospital, right? So what happens at the hospital now? What protection are you offered therein? Correct? Yes, hacker, absolutely. You would be well advised to know about this. So let's look at what happens at the hospital. At the hospital, you will not be forced to reveal your personal details. Okay? Because eventually what happens? If it's a road accident, the hospital will treat it as an MLC, which is a medico-legal case. Right? So, even if it is a medical legal case, you will not be coerced to give out your details. It's completely your discretion whether you want to give out your name, details, Aadhaar number, phone number or not. No problems if you don't want to give. Okay. They will not be forced to bear the initial cost. Remember that scene from Munna Bhai? Form bharna zaruri hai kya? Same thing here. That first go ahead and address the person who is in, who's a casualty here, who's injured. We can do the paperwork later. कि पहले 1 लाख रुपया लाओ फिर हम treatment चालू करेंगे. None of that. The focus should be on saving the person's life. That also is accorded protection under the Good Samaritan law. Okay. And hospitals cannot refuse treatment to victim. Right? Lack of response by a doctor will be considered as a professional misconduct. And this has been, in fact, the IMA, the Indian Medical Association, has endorsed this. That it is the job of the doctors to go ahead and, well, treat the person ASAP. Focus on saving the life. The paperwork, the formalities, the money, all can be dealt with later. So this is to do with the hospital stakeholder. Whereas, I would be amiss if I did not discuss the judiciary stakeholder now. So, you can choose to be an eyewitness and you cannot be compelled. This is it. The judiciary offers you protection when the court proceedings are even on. Okay. You don't have to go ahead and do that court kachari ka chakkar. Even if you so want, you can be examined once, and that too, you can do it either through, say, video conferencing or in person. No problems. Just once, your testimony will be recorded. Okay. And thus, look at this. You can even use video conferencing. Right? You can even go through an affidavit. All protection been accorded. Why? So that fear that you carry now, that, oh, I shouldn't help a bystander. Let that go. Focus on solving the public health issue that road accidents are. 19 deaths per hour. It's too much. Even 1 death per hour is too much. So what is the approach now? How do you solve this problem? Okay, this is the legal thing that has been given. The legal safeguard. But more importantly, as a holistic concept, no, there is one particular concept that you need to be aware of. You should in fact mention it in your answers also. That approach is called the safe system approach. What's the central tenet, the central fundamental idea of the safe system approach? That accidents are inevitable. Okay? That human beings will make mistakes. Okay? But those mistakes should not lead to fatalities. Okay? Those mistakes should not lead to permanent disablement. Correct? This is the safe system approach. And once again, what the safe system approach does is, all the stakeholders that we identified now, it goes and fills the gaps. Okay, this is it. So in terms of road engineering, you're looking at blind spots or dark spots you must have heard of, where you're unable to see the oncoming traffic from the other side. Which means what? It is faulty road engineering. Go ahead, today, after the class ends, take your bike or your scooty out. Okay, drive for around 2-3 kilometers in your own town. Tell me, if you come across the road bumps that are there, no? Are they of the same dimensions everywhere, or is it free for all? जिसको जहाँ मर्जी जैसा तरह का बना रहा है. Tell me. So is there uniformity in road construction? No. So how can you go ahead and address it? First, have uniform road construction. Have scientific road management planning. Correct? That is part 1. Number 2, you are looking at safer speed limits. Right? Proper signages, adequate boards, adequate enforcement, minimizing human interaction. Right? Have, say, adequate equipments that straight away send a challan to your house. There is no need for you to go ahead and get fined by a person on the road. Right? You are looking at safer vehicles that, say, our seat belts and our airbags all should be present. Right? Again, enforcement of wearing of seat belt. Airbags, in fact. You should have airbags not just in the front of the car, but also on the sides, near the doors. Correct? Now, because they cost money, so what you find is that an Indian car, okay, so for example, let's consider car X. So car X being sold in India, because the Indian market is price conscious, they will sell the car X with, say, two airbags. Okay, in the, say, the base variant, the most simplest form of that variant. But the same car's base variant in another country, say Netherlands, yes, it will have 6 airbags. What does that tell you? That cost cutting is also being done by the companies insofar as the Indian market is concerned, which is why it is incumbent upon the consumer to drive home this change from their side, right? Say for people post-crash care, please understand, without your hospital intervention, without immediate hospital evacuation, well, you are going to have fatalities, right? So all of that is a part of the safe systems approach. Do make sure that you quote this whenever you're writing your answer. Kavita, good morning. How are you? Welcome. Okay. Now, one more concept, the last concept that I'll bring before you, before we wrap this up, is the highway hypnosis. What is highway hypnosis for any of you who have driven extensively or who have been driving for a long period of time? Okay. What happens is that you space out. That is highway hypnosis, right? White line fever. Okay. You have an altered mental state in which a person can drive great distances without having absolute, say, level of concentration and consciousness. Okay. So this is why, because you're just tired and exhausted. That's it. Thus the phrase sleeping with eyes open. So how do you go ahead? Take rest, take breaks, have an adequate posture, stay hydrated, focus, have some concentration. Don't space out. That is highway hypnosis. Okay. More importantly, it is known as white line fever. Okay. Chalo. Now that you have got this, go ahead and answer these questions for me very quickly. India is a signatory to the Brasilia Declaration on Road Safety. Statement 1. Statement 2. Reducing road accidents, injuries and fatalities by 50% by the year 2030 is part of Agenda 2030. That's our Sustainable Development Goals. Identify the correct statements. And question number 4. In India, the majority of fatalities due to road accidents occur on the national highways. True or false? And 25 to 35 age group is the most at risk, in fact, for the majority of fatalities due to road accidents. Identify the correct statements. Leave your answers for me in a tabular format in the comment box as you have been doing so far. Right? Okay. Let's look at the questions of yesterday very, very quickly now. Okay, if you got the entire discussion, guys, please don't hesitate to leave me a like. I'd really appreciate it. Okay. Okay, let's look at the questions. Recognition in 4 or more states, at least 4 MPs in Lok Sabha, Rajya Sabha, 1 seats in at least 4 states. So the criteria for a national party. Okay. Straight away you realize it should be recognized as a state party in 4 or more states. That is correct. 4 MPs in Lok Sabha and Rajya Sabha. Okay. Please understand this. This is essentially to do with your seats that you win in the Lok Sabha. Nothing to do with Rajya Sabha. Okay. Wrong. And 1 seats in at least 4 states. Well, it should win 2% of the seats in at least 3 states. Okay. So, answer being A only. Okay. Yesterday we discussed about the Constitution bench of the Supreme Court. And I had told you at least 5 times during that entire discussion that it needs to have 5 judges. It's a 5-judge bench. Okay. So this is it. A is incorrect here. So the question asks me for incorrect, which means A only. Right? I'd also asked you about question number 2A. Most of you answered it correctly. It was indeed Article 147 that gives effect to this provision. Absolutely correct answers by you there. Well done. Question 3. How many of the above is or are polymers that form the basic building block of our plastic products? And we had discussed yesterday 4-5 types of polymers. Okay. Polyethylene, yes. Polypropylene, yes. Polyvinyl chloride, yes. Polysaccharide is sugar. Okay. It's a sugar-based product, which means it's not a polymer. So your answers being 3 only. Okay. Extended producer responsibility, EPR, circular economy, mass awareness programs, all will go ahead and help me reduce plastic pollution. But if you end up giving more subsidies to plastic manufacturing industry, well, they will produce more. So obviously that's not going to reduce your plastic pollution, right? So the answer here being A, B, and C. A, B, and C only. Right? Simple questions, right? Heat engines efficiency. Efficiency is essentially nothing but your output by your input. And I told you yesterday that heat engine is to do with nothing but conversion of heat energy into mechanical energy. Right? So that is it. Net work output by total heat input is my heat engine's efficiency. And Carnot's cycle, Carnot's rule or Carnot's heat engine is completely based on the second law of thermodynamics. Okay, basic science and tech. Nothing that is outside the scope, by the way, scope of the syllabus. Right, my friends, that concludes the class for today. These are the individuals: Sohail, Gopesh, Bharad, Lagnajit, Neeraja, Pooja, Harshit, Shubham, Rupash, Tanvi, Mandeep, Pranjul, Vidisha, Laughter, Coder, Crystal, Akhil, Satyabrata, Vaishnavi, Tanish, Karuna, Ayush, Aditya, and Target CSC. Well done, guys. I'm extremely happy to see the continuous progress some of these individuals have made. So go ahead, answer the questions of today. If you have any particular questions related to what we have discussed here today, make sure you reach out to me on my Instagram ID, and you will find the entire lecture, the PDF uploaded on my Telegram channel that goes by the name of Bhuvan Study IQ. Okay, I upload this normally say around noon. Right? So till I see you tomorrow morning once again in the next class of Indian Express Explained, this is Bhuvan Apurv signing off. Do consider leaving me a like and a comment if you understood the topics that we discussed here this morning. Thanks for watching. Have a